My friend Derrick Reimer, co-founder of Drip, founder of SavvyCal at savvycal.com. He's going to be talking next, and he's going to be diving in to his product hunt launch. He has prepared some slides for us with intricate, detailed numbers, and I'm really looking forward to it. And it's, we're going to have a little conversation. Don't be surprised if I interrupt him now and again with some questions. And if you have questions, we will be answering them. He's going to talk for about 15 or 20 minutes, and then we're going to have 5 to 10 minutes of Q&A at the end if you want to find out, if you have anything that you feel like wasn't covered in the talk. So with that, let's give a warm MicroConf remote welcome to Mr. Derrick Reimer. How's it going, sir?
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's great to, you've been on the MicroConf stage with me. You've been on Startups for the Rest of Us, MicroConf on air. And I feel like you're rounding the bases. You got the, what's it called? Hitting the cycle, where you hit a first, second, a single. Basketball is not my sport. Sports ball
reference.
Single, double, triple, and home run. Yeah, no, it's great to have you on here, man. So if producer Xander, Aaron, if you can pull up Derrick's slides. Derrick, you have your slide advancer already?
I do. I think
awesome.
It'll work. Let's see.
Cool. So I'm going to let you take it from here, and obviously I'll interject, as I said, as I have questions.
That sounds good. Feel free. Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks everyone for coming out, and I'm excited to be talking to you about kind of our journey with SavvyCal to reaching kind of the top of Product Hunt this last January. Some of the lessons we learned from that whole process, and how we thought about kind of orchestrating the launch, the timing of it, and so on. So excited to be here talking to you about this. Just real quick, a little bit about me. We touched on most of this already, but I'm a full stack product creator. I've been kind of doing the bootstrapped SaaS thing for about 10 years now. Co-founded Drip alongside the one and only Rob Walling, and now I'm working on SavvyCal. And you can hear me weekly on the Art of Product podcast, where Ben and I kind of talk about what's happened in the last week in our businesses and kind of working in public. And I think I've been to every single US-based MicroConf except for the first one. So always love interacting with folks at MicroConf, and can't wait to see you all in person when in-person events are a thing again. So
for the record, I think you were like 12 years old when the first MicroConf happened. Somewhere along those lines.
That's not too far off. I think I was fresh out of college and very fresh in many ways. All right. So we'll kick this off with kind of just talking through some numbers from the SavvyCal launch, and then we'll kind of dig into some of the details about how we got there. So January 7th, the product went live, and in the time since then, we've accumulated close to 2,000 upvotes. About 256 comments on the comment thread. We got #1 product of the week and #2 for the month of January. And this ended up driving about 10,000 unique visitors to the site, around 3,000 registrations for the product. And that's free signups without a credit card. And then, a certain percentage of those have converted into trial and then customer. And that has resulted in about a $4,000 bump in MRR. And so suffice to say, I was extremely blown away by this. I mean, first of all, you never know what to expect with a launch like this. It's where a website that's effectively a popularity contest of sorts. Obviously there are things you can do to help increase your chances for success, but definitely didn't expect this. And so, it just goes to show how you got to kind of take on some of these things, and not everyone's going to work out, but some of them might. And so, got to put some gas in the serendipity engine and see what you can make happen.
Yeah, I think there is a lot of probably warranted skepticism around the Hacker News or the Product Hunt launch because of the fact that it's I like to do repeatable things that work every time or most times, and these don't. However, they're repeatable enough, because if you get 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10, like this is, 4,000 MRR for a lot of folks. Frankly, if you're living anywhere that's, not that expensive, that can be raw profitability plus right away. So I'm super excited to hear more about it.
Yeah, totally. And along those lines, like, this is the big caveat anytime I talk to anyone about Product Hunt, it's so much of what happens on there is beyond your control. So you never know, who else is happening to launch that day and going to kind of take most of the attention. You don't know what's, maybe your product doesn't end up resonating totally with the product hunt audience, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you're not building the right thing. It just means maybe it's not a great fit for the audience, or maybe it's a little too niche, and that niche just doesn't really have a presence there. So there's a lot of things, kind of what you alluded to, Rob, in your opening. So many different variables, and product hunt is no different. And so it's important to manage your expectations and think of this as just one kind of marketing experiment, and it may have great results, may not, but still a worthwhile thing to do.
Yeah, and to give folks an idea, I have personally posted 14 projects to Product Hunt. I'm just looking at my dashboard right now.
Oh,
and
wow.
one of the lowest upvotes, let's see, Tiny Seed when we launched got 11 upvotes. Start Small, Stay Small got 19 upvotes. That was years later after it was published.
Yeah.
But I think one of the highest upvotes are, it looks like I posted Startups for the Rest of Us within the last couple of years, and that got about 430. And then when we launched the Video Vault, we got 330. So I know you got way more than that, but that gives you an idea, like, of 14. Even for someone with reach like myself, I think it looks like about a 30% success rate that got in the triple digits of upvotes and probably drove substantial traffic for us.
Yeah, and I should say, I've done a couple, not that many launches, but a couple other products. CodeTree was the other main one that I did back in, I think it was 2015, 2016, and that one, if I recall, it got like 130 upvotes, and it felt, it was for the scale of the community at the time, and the scope of the project, it felt like a good success. But it was also felt a little bit like different times back then, where other people would hunt other people's products more, and it was kind of this more organic thing. And now, like most of these types of platforms, it has become much more curated, I guess, and there's people are put a lot more attention generally into carefully orchestrating their launches, which is not a bad thing, and that's what we're here to talk about today. But yeah, it is interesting how the platform has evolved pretty much over the last 10 years. I think it's been around. So
yeah, quite a while.
So yeah,
I do want to pop in with one question. I think if a bunch come through, I won't keep derailing you, but I think it's warranted to ask now, because you just talked about that MRR, that $4,000 MRR bump. The question is from Justin Kistner in the MicroConf remote channel of our Connect Slack, and he says, how long did the MRR continue to flow in after the launch? Are you still getting customers from it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely been an effect of so we got obviously a big bump the day of, and then I'll kind of touch on this a little bit later in the talk, but an even bigger bump when I got mentioned in the newsletter. And so that the bulk of the traffic came in that time, and it sort of gradually tapered off over time, but we sustained close to 100 trials in the pipeline for a couple of weeks after that, and most of those were kind of driven from Product Hunt. So there definitely is kind of a reverberating effect, and it has gradually kind of tapered down. And of course, attribution is really hard, so it's hard to know, whether it's now a result of Product Hunt or just sort of other people who've heard about the product and are starting to use it and spreading it. It's kind of a tricky story to pick apart, but I think, yes, definitely we've had kind of continued growth off of the momentum from Product Hunt the last couple of months.
Awesome. Let's keep rolling.
So kind of just a loose roadmap. What we're going to talk about first, thinking about timing, when to actually put your product on Product Hunt, some things you can do to build a little bit of momentum leading up to it, what you can think about in crafting your post, and some of the bits of data you're going to want to have there, what to expect on launch day, and then some things you can do post launch to leverage any momentum you've built there. All right. So yeah, first of all, timing. So I think a mistake that a lot of products make is putting your product up on Product Hunt a little bit too early, because there's some things you want to have in place ahead of that to really give yourself the best chance for success. So, if you're a brand new product and you haven't launched yet to the world, hopefully you're building a pre-launch email list. And that's important for many reasons, but in this context, that's a list that you will want to definitely reach out to ahead of your launch and on your launch day to say, hey, come, people are discussing our product and come share your thoughts about it and show your support. And so that's an asset you'll want to have. You'll want to have real customers using the product. So, we thought it was SavvyCal. We thought about it as like, let some early access customers in the summertime, a couple months later, do a gradual launch to opening up public access in September. And then we decided to put it on Product Hunt in January. So we kind of spaced it out over, 4 to 6 months. And by the time we landed on Product Hunt, we had a nice solid base of customers who were, had become fans of the product and were very happy to come and drop reviews on there and really genuinely say nice things, not just your friends who will say nice things about your product as a favor, but real customers. And that's an important thing to have. And then the third thing is doing some work on your positioning. This is always a work in progress for any company, really. But I think you can really do yourself a service if you have a clear statement about who the product is for, who's going to really care about it and why they should care. I shout out to April Dunford's book, Obviously Awesome. She has a great framework in there for kind of mapping out, different customer segments that could be using your product and ways to craft your positioning and messaging around that. And if you have a really clear story there, then it has a better chance of resonating with people. Otherwise, things can get a little bit mired in the comment threads. I've seen this happen before where people are confused or like, how is this different than major competitor X? And for us, that was because SavvyCal is in a competitive market. That was a big thing. We made sure to have competitor comparison pages ready to go. So if those questions came up, we could just share it and kind of have a once and for all answer. And so once you have those things, then it's a good time to think about posting a Product Hunt.
I have a question on this slide from Tony from Cloud Forecast. He says, how big was your customer base that helped you launch on Product Hunt? So, I'm guessing how many paid and or free users did you have at that time? And then how big was your pre-launch email list?
Yeah, so I think the pre-launch email list was around 1,000 people. And I believe I should have this number written down, but I think it was around 200 customers using the product. So a couple thousand in MRR and about 1,000 people on the pre-launch list. And so I had already marketed to that list, obviously, to when I opened it up in September. But so only some of those had converted. So yeah, that kind of gives you a sense. All right. So building momentum. So it's pretty simple. The roadmap that we followed for this, but basically about a week ahead, we mentioned it on social media. I kind of do the build in public thing on Twitter a bit, and that is where a lot of my customers right now, founders and people in the startup space are hanging out all the time. So it happens to align pretty well with the SavvyCal business. So posted about it there to let people know in advance, and sent an email to customers and the launch list, letting them know. And also, like Rob was mentioning before, the concentric circles, reached out privately to people in my network to also give them a heads up, because that's kind of a group that you really will want to deliberately recruit on launch day to help you out and make sure that you're getting the initial lift to get your post going with some traction on Product Hunt. And so really the goal here is just to let people know and let them know that you'll appreciate their support. Of course, you're not soliciting upvotes because it's something you need to be careful about. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but yeah, just giving people a heads up. All right, so next we'll talk a little bit about crafting your posts, and this is some actual text that I used in mine to give you a sense. So obviously the name of your product and a tagline, that something that could basically fit well as an H1 on your marketing site. The description, a little bit more, but not too long. For the website, we created a specific landing page, just savvycal.com/product hunt. And I think I have a screenshot of that a little bit later. But basically, a copy of our homepage with a banner on it that said, welcome, Product Hunter, just something a little bit personalized. And that helped out with kind of just tracking, keep looking in analytics and seeing how many people had landed there first. Kind of is just an easy way to get a sense for how the listing is doing. Some people also like to give a special discount or promotion, and you could obviously throw that on that page as well. We decided not to, but I think that's certainly something you could consider. I did record a brief video demo, and so basically you have to upload it to YouTube, and then Product Hunt allows you to paste in a YouTube link, and they feature that kind of as the first thing that people see when they look at your post, and it autoplays. And so the approach we took was 60 to 90 seconds of a very personalized video for Product Hunt. So I started out with me, my son's screen, Product Hunt. Thanks for checking out SavvyCal. Here are some of my favorite features of the product that I think you're really going to love. And I just kind of highlighted some of the most compelling features that I thought, this kind of community of people who are early adopter types would really appreciate. And I think that really helped us get lift. And
Did
then
you put music behind
screenshots.
that? Was it pretty highly produced? Sorry, yeah. Was that highly produced with music, or just kind of?
It was not. Yeah.
Cool.
I just turned on screen flow and had my little face in the corner, and intentionally kept it like kind of low fidelity. I wanted it to feel pretty personal. I think that was a piece of advice that I was given. Like, doesn't have to be highly polished in this case. And so even you could even do a Loom video. I happen to use screencasting software, but either one would work. Yeah, and then a handful of product screenshots that I sort of stylized a little bit, but mostly just kind of demonstrating some key parts of the product. You'll want to pay attention to the sizing of. So I think it's 1270 by 760 pixels, and that way they won't truncate or clip off the edges of your images. Okay, and then you also want to write kind of your first comment from you as the maker, and you want to post that on launch day as soon as your post goes live. You want to make sure to put that out there, and ideally it'll get the most upvotes just as being the first comment from the maker, and so that's sort of your message to seed the discussion thread, and it'll kind of be pinned there at the top. And sort of the structure we followed was, hey, I'm Derrick, founder of SavvyCal. You may know me from, Drip or whatever, just a little personal anecdote there. And then kind of stating the problem. And you want this to be kind of really tight copywriting. So we used bullet points and make it pretty skimmable. And then stating the solution, and the call to action is let me know what you think. And so you're just trying to be very open to people, discussing, and that's kind of the posture you want to have on this to encourage people to drop a comment.
Quick question, Derrick, from Pablo Fernandez. I believe the answer is no, but he said, did you use Product Hunt Ship? And I had to Google that because I didn't even know what it was. It's like I don't know. Is it something you pay for? I mean, it's like you can enter your email and it's widgets and stuff to help you get more traction with a toolkit for makers to ship awesome products, but I don't exactly understand what it is. Oh yeah, I guess it is. It's a monthly subscription. So did you use that at all? Yeah.
We did not. So you see, I think part of the ship thing is like those upcoming pages that people will post, like as kind of a replacement for a pre-launch landing page or something. So one thing that I considered doing, and actually Corey Haynes, who I work with on marketing stuff, basically told me I didn't need to worry about this too much. But I was a little concerned that my posting would get scooped, that someone would post it before the day that I officially plan to launch on Product Hunt, which is always a risk because anybody can just post any product that they want on there. And I think that Ship has something in it where you can technically like lock it in and prevent someone from doing that. But Corey's take on it was that, the Product Hunt team is actually very willing to work with people on this. So like if someone does that and you were planning a launch coming up, you could just kind of message them and say, hey, we're planning to launch it on this day. Can we take this post down for now? And I think they're willing to work with you on that because ultimately they want you to have a big splash too. It only benefits them to have these really well executed launches on their platform and not catching makers flat-footed. So yes, we decided not to use any of that Ship stuff.
Sounds good. What's next?
All right, so just a quick little screeny shot of our listing, so you can see that the demo video. This is what shows, and it's auto plays right when you see it. So that'll be right there, and then your product screenshots. I have just kind of a little array of them here. I just put little captions at the bottom. Seem to work pretty well. And this is what our landing page looked like. A little banner at the top. Kind of tweak the call to action a little bit to say, claim your username to imply a little bit of FOMO, perhaps. All right. So leading up to your launch is kind of a pro tip. It's not absolutely necessary, but it potentially is beneficial to recruit someone who has high reputation on Product Hunt to hunt your product for you. I think this used to be an even bigger factor in the past. And, this is one of those things where like the Product Hunt algorithm, no one really knows on the outside what's going on entirely in there. But sometimes people do have issues, some like their product will be on there for a while and then just kind of get pulled off the main page for some weird reason, and just weird things can happen sometimes. So this is one of those things, like it's not guaranteed to help, but it definitely can't hurt. If you ask someone like a Heaton Shaw, he's a very helpful guy, and he agreed to post ours for us, and he's hunted probably thousands of products at this point. And the nice thing is hunters can schedule, I think, a few hours in advance, so they don't have to be too inconvenienced to like click the button right at midnight for you.
Did he have to post all of your assets? Did you have to send the video and all the images and everything to him in order to get that to work?
Yep.
Oh, wow. Okay,
yeah,
so there is some work on the hunter's part.
There is, yeah. There's a little bit of work. So make their job easy. That stuff I outlined, like all those pieces of metadata, you want to make sure to have it, very easily copy and pastable for your hunter. And so I think we maybe had like a little Dropbox folder or like a Google Drive folder or something that had a doc with all that information and, all of the images named 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so that he knew what order to post them in, and make their job easy for them. But they do have to do a little bit of legwork on that.
Another question from an audience member is, did you already have a relationship with your hunter, or did you reach out to him just for this launch? Yeah, so I kind of, Heaton Shaw is in the Tiny Seed Mentor Network, and actually Corey had a relationship with him as well, and Corey did the outreach for me. So I'm not going to say that I'll volunteer Heaton to launch anyone's product, but I think he's a particularly helpful guy, and I think a lot of the kind of people who do a lot of posting on Product Hunt are generally speaking very willing to help if a founder kind of cold reaches out to them and makes a good first impression. Yeah, and MicroConf itself is a connector, right? Because I know when folks reach out to Patrick McKenzie or Heaton Shaw or Steli Efti or Jason Cohen, or I mean, the list is on and on. You look at pretty much any MicroConf speaker. If you say, I attended MicroConf, I've seen your talks, and can you give me advice, or can you hunt my product, or can you do whatever? Yep. They are usually quite willing to do it because the community is so strong. So I would use that as just as a point of connection is all it is, right? It's like, oh, I'm in the community and so are you. So awesome.
Yep.
What's next?
Yep. Cool. So let's talk a little bit about launch day. So a couple hours before, and so launch day officially starts, by the way, at midnight Pacific time. That's when Product Hunt deems it's the next day. And so to increase your chances of accumulating the most upvotes, you want to post, right at midnight. And so a couple hours before that midnight time, you want to make sure to announce it on social channels. Hey, this is coming, and give people a little bit of anticipation there. And then right at midnight, submit to Product Hunt. And like I said, the hunter can, whether it's you hunting or someone else on your behalf, should be able to schedule that in the Product Hunt interface a couple hours in advance. I kind of was on the fence on whether I was going to stay up in the middle of the night, because this is 2 a.m. Central Time. And I think my internal clock naturally woke me up. I was asleep for a few hours before that. And so, yeah, it's an exciting time, when it goes live. And usually I saw a little bump in comments and upvotes, and definitely spent about an hour or so tending to that thread before catching a few more hours of sleep. But yeah, so submit to Product Hunt, schedule an email announcement to your customers' launch list, post. I think Indie Hackers has a specific Product Hunt category, so you can announce to the community there. MicroConf Connect is a great place, right? Any Slack communities that you're in like that. We kind of just tried to make it anywhere where you could find me. All roads pointed to that post for the day, so I changed all my social bios, and just tried to drive everyone straight to that post instead of linking directly to the SavvyCal website. Driving everyone there. And yeah, so I can show you. This is the tweet that we sent. Oops. I think I double advanced. Let's see. Oh, that's weird. Slide's not in there. That's okay. So I have a couple screenshots. Yeah, a couple screenshots of the tweet and the email that went out, and I can post this deck in the Slack channel or wherever is best to put it, so you can kind of see that content. All right. So, early morning. So as a couple hours into your launch, it's good to work your concentric circles a bit and privately message your friends. And this is where things can be a little more, as long as it's in private, you can be a little more direct about your ask. So, of course, you're asking for an upvote. It's good to have people, leave comments there and leave reviews. So especially if they're a customer, and outline some pros and cons. People can get a little skeptical if everything is positive all the time. So it's kind of good to get a nice balance of I love this tool because of this, and maybe the tool's not so good for you if you're this, and to help people get a sense for why they should care about this product, make their job easy. Leaving comments. Upvoting comments and marking things is helpful. It just helps the whole post get lift, and of course reshares throughout the day. And so you as the go ahead.
I was going to say upvote. You can of course ask for upvotes. It depends on how you want to tackle it. I know Product Hunt says please don't ask for upvotes in public. Ask for support. And that's their
exactly
thing.
Yep.
Right? You can if you're just asking for upvotes, and technically maybe you're gaming the system. So you have to use your own internal judgment of, hey, if I'm gonna be in a private Slack channel and I'm gonna message 10 of my people, do you say, hey, I could use your support here? Do you specifically say I could use upvotes? It's you just you have to go with what you feel comfortable with.
Yep. And I kind of doubt anyone at Product Hunt would know or fault you for doing, a small limited outreach to your own friends. I mean, that's a given that's going to happen, but you definitely don't want to go too crazy with it. Keep that tight. People know how to show you support, so you don't have to be too specific to violate, any terms or anything like that. So yeah. And then the biggest thing you can do is just, throughout the day, plan to not really get anything else done that day. You stay engaged in the comment thread. People may have random questions that technically are already answered other places, but just, be very kind and helpful and show that you're not just dropping this over here and expecting people to show you support without you engaging with them. So just be present. So yes, just a couple of do's and don'ts. Do make noise about your posts throughout the day. So we kind of had a loose plan of at a couple points throughout the day, I was going to post some tweet threads about, hey, we're on Product Hunt, just kind of mentioning that, and then here's a little comparison between us and our major competitor, or here's kind of the story, the launch timeline of how we got to this place. So just kind of, trying to keep it in front of people's radar, not in a spammy way, but just so that you're kind of having your day in the spotlight on any social channels where people might be following you as well. And yes, don't publicly solicit upvotes, and definitely don't buy upvotes. I think there was some interesting activity on some posts that were on the same day as mine, and where they were adding something like 100 votes an hour or something like that, and I think something sketchy was going on. But what actually interesting anecdote about that, later on, about a week later, I think Product Hunt goes through and kind of culls any votes that were from bots or potentially purchased, and so you will see sometimes your vote counts get readjusted as they do kind of their cleanup in the background. So, all right. So post-launch, obviously thank your supporters for helping out. You can add your nice slick little Product Hunt badge if it's achieved the kind of success that you want to. That you feel like would be helpful to show to people. So we threw this in our footer, a little featured on Product Hunt badge with our upvote count. And then we decided to add this little PS line to an onboarding email that goes out when someone signs up for the product at first. And because we end up with 200 and something comments there, it actually became a nice repository of social proof and people kind of sharing their experiences using the product. And so similar to those review sites, your Product Hunt post can be a nice kind of repository of that. And the nice thing is people will continue to upvote over time, and that helps with some of these distinctions like, number one of the week, number one of the month, or number whatever, but it helps you continue to rise in the ranks even past your day in the spotlight.
2,000 votes, man, that's impressive. It's a lot of votes.
Yeah. I like I said, totally blown away by that.
Awesome. We have a lot of questions coming in. I think I have probably 3 or 4 more, but I do want to hold off. You just have a couple more slides?
Just a couple more. Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Why don't we finish these out and then I'll start digging in. I mean, I think there's at least maybe somewhere between 3 and 5 questions that we can kind of start cranking through, and other folks feel free to add them. I know, we're going a little long. We obviously started late, but in addition, one of the beauties of doing this live is that the questions are coming in, and I'd love to be able to go through those. So keep going with this, and then and I'll pop back in a couple minutes.
Cool. Sounds good. Yeah. So the other thing that happened to us is, we did really well on our day of. We achieved the number 2 spot, and what that meant was we were selected to be featured in the newsletter. And so, this is again one of those things completely beyond your control. It's kind of the editorial staff at Product Hunt that makes these decisions. But we basically got notified like, hey, we're gonna put you as the feature in the newsletter, and this ended up driving 2 times the amount of traffic as the initial launch day. So that turned out to be, kind of the real prize of the Product Hunt launch was the newsletter feature, because I think their list is, I don't know, 300,000, 400,000, something like that. And so that goes to show the power of email. Unfortunately, this is one of those things that you have very little control over, but do be prepared. So that was the other thing. Tons of support emails came in. I kind of had a few questions in the initial onboarding email that goes out, like, hey, how'd you hear about us, and why did you sign up? And definitely a lot of people took me up on that. So I think I fielded somewhere around 1,000 emails in the month of January, just as a result of the Product Hunt launch. This shows you the traffic. On the 7th was launch day, and then the 8th was newsletter day. That's uniques versus page views there. And so, advance. One more time. Uh-oh.
It's gonna double advance. Yeah, back to the first slide.
Can I wrap around? Let's see if I can do this.
Yeah, try that.
We're doing this live, folks.
The show must go on. This is the best about live. I can't wait. I'm waiting for the dog to bark at the UPS person. I'm waiting for another kid to crawl in army style under the camera. Yeah, so you just want your last slide, basically? Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. It's not a big deal. Basically, the last slide is a thank you slide, and before that are my two parting thoughts, which are enjoy your time in the spotlight, but also make sure to manage your expectations. And if it doesn't pop off like the Savvy Cow launch did, it's not necessarily your fault. And just all you can do is your best at trying to set yourself up for success, and just treat it like an experiment.
Awesome. And obviously this is one of those things I was talking about earlier that they don't scale, but to get 4K of MRR right off the bat is pretty sweet. All right. So I know we're running long. I want to answer all these questions. So obviously if you have if you have a prior engagement, you have to leave. The video will be available to you as a MicroConf remote ticket holder. But let's dive into these questions, sir, because it's a great story. And I love how you set expectations of like, hey, this isn't going to happen for everyone. But this is what happens when things go really right. I mean, I think that's what I'll say is like you did a lot of things right and you got a little lucky. Right. There was both aspects to it, because you can do everything right and get 50 votes. You can get a little lucky and get 2,000, but you did both. Question from Chris Engelhart. He said, do you know your churn for the Product Hunt cohort compared to your average churn rate? Do you know how many dropped off after the first month, even if it's ballpark? Yeah.
That's a great question, actually. And it's something that I didn't have a great sense before, even though we had launched and we had several hundred customers, like I mentioned. The churn pre-Product Hunt was effectively zero. Like, it was very, very small. And that's one of those artifacts of early stage SaaS where you have mostly people who are a super great fit or from your kind of personal network, and they're just very unlikely to churn. And that doesn't last forever, right? So I didn't have a good sense of what my actual churn rate was going to be for the particular market segment that I was targeting, but that was sort of anxiously awaiting for the month following Product Hunt, and churn was decently high. I think we had around 12% for that initial month, and things have started to taper off a bit. We're below 10 right now, but it definitely is still higher than I would want it to be. And so I'm keeping an eye on it and thinking about potentially tackling that, weighing that against adding more features that a bunch of people have been requesting, wearing many hats. But I'm curious to see how long this, if churn is going to drop off as kind of we get further away from the Product Hunt reverberation from launch, but time will tell.
Very nice. And Santiago asks, would you consider launching, but I think it means, submitting to Product Hunt again after a major integration or a major feature? Like, let's say you integrate with Zapier, or you add just a huge, remember drip workflows, right? Where it's like, this really changes the app. Would you consider submitting to Product Hunt again at that point?
I definitely would. Yeah. I think there is such thing as too much. And Corey had some experience with this, actually, because he's formerly at Barometrics, and I think for a while they were really kind of pushing hard on this. Every major feature they would do kind of a Product Hunt launch, and you do end up you can end up overtaxing that channel a little bit, and I think Product Hunt doesn't want to see too many small features being like promoted there, But I think if it's something really big and meaningful, like I'm building an Outlook integration right now, SavvyCal, which is going to really open up, at least 2x the addressable market that we have, because it's another calendar integration. I think that potentially could be a good one to try to craft a launch around. So yeah, I'm definitely planning to experiment more, and probably not more than a couple times a year at most for this kind of thing. So I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, given how much effort it is, I do think it's something that you want to use sparingly. Next question: would you say a product hunt launch is better suited for software products built for wide audiences? Do you think it would work for software serving a niche market?
Yeah, I mean, my sense is that it definitely, because it's just a very undifferentiated set of people. Like it's a very broad group. So the more broadly appealing your product is, the better chance it's going to resonate with more people. That just logically makes sense, So I think if you're building a software for construction contractors, countertop installers, whatever, like how many of those people are going to be on Product Hunt? Very few compared to, the people who are in the market for a more general purpose scheduling tool, for example. So yeah, I think your mileage will definitely vary a ton based on how niche your product is.
Question from Daniel. He says, have you ever tried launching to Product Hunt and thereby focusing the attention of your existing network there, i.e. linking from your Twitter or similar, so that let me finish the question, then I'll clarify it. I think to get more attention on Product Hunt by people who don't know you when you hopefully get upvotes from your network. I think what he's saying is actually launching your product on Product Hunt or launching a feature on Product Hunt, and instead of when you email saying, hey, come to savvycal.com and tweeting that out, you actually send them to Product Hunt instead. Now, I know you did a product launch because you launched SavvyCal a few months earlier, and then you did Product Hunt launch decoupled from that, in essence, right?
Right.
And that's how I would recommend it. I've seen people try to do both, and when you do both, if you go all in on Product Hunt and it doesn't get the traction, you get no visits to your website. You get no conversions. It's pretty risky to do that. Would you be in sync with that?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. And the other advantage of launching a bit in advance is having those real customer testimonials that people can actually leave. If your app's been kind of open to the public for a few months at least, that's super valuable. I think, if it's the further away from vaporware that you are, the better.
Right.
And yeah, so like we definitely drove, like day of, as the launch was going on, pointed all links away from the homepage and straight to the Product Hunt page. So I think for a limited period of time, it makes total sense to do that. I think maybe for like about a week or so after the launch, we kept, on the SavvyCal Twitter profile and on my Twitter profile, the URL was pointing to Product Hunt. But I would only do that for a pretty, narrow scope of time.
Yeah. So again, to reiterate, if I were, and I think Derrick and I are on the same page with this, if I was launching a brand new product, I would build my launch list, I'd build a Twitter following, whatever, and then I would launch to my own audience. I would not involve Product Hunt at all. And do the email, do the tweet, do whatever, get everybody in, like you said, get the testimonials. And probably about a month later, maybe two, I would then do a Product Hunt launch, decoupled from the initial launch. Next question, is Product Hunt recommended when your product is a tool or service that may include people who are familiar with Product Hunt, but most of your customers might not be familiar with it? Or is everyone aware of Product Hunt? I would say not everyone's aware of Product Hunt, especially depending on your niche. I mean, it's a small subset of our spaces. Right. But again, the question is, would you recommend Product Hunt when your product is a tool or service that may include people who are familiar with Product Hunt, but most of your customers might not be familiar with Product Hunt? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the risk, maybe saying like if it's like a dramatically different market, like I think I would suspect that a lot of people who are actively engaged with Product Hunt are more of the early adopter types. And if you're building a product that is predominantly for people who don't spend a lot of time online and are not particularly early adopter types, then you might be potentially opening yourself up to an influx of people who aren't really a good fit anyways. And that's always the risk with kind of dropping your product in a place where like people aren't necessarily the right type of customer. But I also think that when you're early on, it's hard to know exactly how many potential good customers are in that audience. Who's to say? You can't really know that for sure anyways. So the risk is that you clog up your support queues a little bit with people who are like expecting something different than what you're actually offering. That's always a risk that you run, but I think the benefits probably outweigh the risks in most cases.
Excellent. We're going to wrap up here in the next couple of minutes. We do have a couple more questions. Do you think a product hunt launch would be worth the effort for a B2C product, business to consumer, specifically a more niche B2C product? My answer to the first one is B2C. Yes, probably. Niche, I don't know. There's always a play with there. What do you think about those?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of B2C like apps seem to do pretty well. I mean, it's just from watching listings over time, like the more consumer grade a product is, the better shot it has at kind of popping off on a site like this. So if you've really focused on simple mechanics and good design and something that a consumer would like, those have probably a better chance of succeeding. That's sort of the product approach that we've taken with SavvyCal, is trying to really nail a simple, highly polished user experience. I think like the flip side is like some very specific line of business application where it's like complex and doesn't look appealing, but solves a very specific problem for a niche. Like I think that's probably less likely to resonate with kind of a drive-by audience of people who are looking for hot, cool new products, if that makes sense.
Indeed, it does. Another question from Tony at Cloud Forecast. He says, I know this is hard to attribute, but do you know which of the channels helped with your product hunt launch the most?
It is hard to attribute.
No.
I think.
Yeah.
I don't know because I do quite a bit of the building in public stuff because it seems to resonate with my potential customers when I share openly about stuff. So I have been doing that for a while, and you can't just start this overnight, right? It's something you have to invest in that as a channel for getting people interested in your product. But so I'd been doing that kind of the whole time. So when I posted this on Twitter, it got a lot of lift. It drove a bunch of traffic there. I don't know how much traffic it actually drove to the product hunt post, but I think I'm still very very bullish on email as like probably the best way to communicate to somebody that, hey, I would like support. We're on Product Hunt, and sending that via email. I have probably appreciate that channel a bit more than social, which is more like, is the algorithm going to surface my tweet to people or not? Who knows? But at least with email, you can land in someone's inbox. So, yeah.
Yeah, there it is. All right, two more questions. One is from Matt Nuganawa. He says, on balance, it sounds like the product hunt launch was a success for you. Relative to other things that don't scale, where do you think it rates? It's a tough one, huh? Because, I mean, you compare it to AppSumo, and it's like, well, AppSumo is certain to, if you get accepted, you're certain to get something out of it, but there's also a risk there that you could cannibalize. There's just risks there. Product Hunt, the risk is that you spend a bunch of time and it doesn't work. It's more of like an SEO or a viral play where you're going to try to do, a clickbait thing around, some news item. And if you invest the time to write the ebook or write the blog post or whatever, and then nobody picks it up, then you've wasted time.
Yeah, I guess and think of it in terms of like time investment versus potential return. We probably spent, I don't know, between me and Corey, maybe like 8 hours or so kind of writing the copy, creating the screenshots, recording the video, talking to Heaton, recruiting our hunter, and just kind of outlining the launch process and coordinating that. So it was a decent time investment, but not like it's not like we were spending weeks on this trying, and that was intentional too, because I was like, this could go absolutely nowhere, so we want to not over invest in it too much. And so it's probably more investment than like trying to write a catchy manifesto that you try to get, lift on Hacker News or something, right? A little bit more than that, but certainly like an AppSumo launch, for example, like that could potentially create an enormous support burden. Then you have to kind of increase, staffing for that, and there's a lot. So that I consider something like an AppSumo launch is potentially a lot more disruptive or takes more time investment than product as an experiment.
Very nice. And our final question for your keynote session from Matt Gale. He says, what made you decide to not include a promotion or launch deal with your Product Hunt launch?
Yeah, that was just sort of a call that we made. I think because it's already a decently low priced product, and really I was trying to optimize for getting revenue in the door. So, I mean, something it's always in the works, in the plans to potentially experiment with freemium or experiment with, deeper discounts or affiliates and that kind of stuff. But early on, especially my mindset, end of last year, as I just was having my first couple hundred customers, was that, no, I want to propose this to this community, and I want only people who really are interested and value the product and to pay the price tag that I'm charging everyone else. Those are the people that I want in the door. And so I was a little worried about overly incentivizing people by making it really cheap, and potentially just seeing a bunch of churn or a bunch of kind of poorly fitting customers, I guess, is sort of how I was thinking about it.
Derrick Reimer, sir, thank you so much for joining me today. Folks can find you on Twitter at Derrick Reimer, and of course, savvycal.com if they want to see the magic you're building. Thanks for sharing your knowledge today.
And I have a special discount for MicroConf attendees. So you go to savvycal.com/MicroConf. It's a coupon code there, 20% off your first year.
Oh, I'm going to go sign up for that right now. I'm already a SavvyCal user. Derrick's like, don't do that. Yeah, awesome.
New customers only.
Of course. Awesome. Well, thanks for that, man.
Thanks for having me.